Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to take cuttings from a rosemary tree. Rosemary cuttings are notoriously, give the plane a second. I'm in South Florida close to the airport, so we get a lot of planes zipping above overhead. So rosemary trees are notoriously one of the hardest trees to take cuttings from and propagate. That's not just my opinion, that's a known fact. Maybe it's because they do want to develop some lignin or woody fiber, so that's gonna take a little longer for the cells to reassign themselves. Or maybe it's just because of how slowly it grows that it's a precarious process. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do it. If you have any tips on how to do it better, drop them in the comments. I'd love to use them. But first things first, let's glove up. I like to use these heavy-duty nitrile gloves. There's no need to get all of the soil under our fingernails. There's no need to get, a lot of the different species that are in our soil that we like to have there on our hands. And I know right now someone's saying, oh, soft hands, dirt under the fingernail, that's what makes you a real farmer. That's all right. We don't need to listen to people like that because they probably don't know what they're doing. Next thing is you're gonna want some shears. I have these, got them on Amazon for $3. They will work perfectly fine, but I don't need, overkill when I'm just working with a beautiful little rosemary plant. I'm gonna have some soil. This soil is actually some of the compost that we use. The compost is processed by Canadian night crawlers. The American night crawlers wanted more money to do the job, so we did hire Canadian night crawlers. And that's gonna give it the humus and the organic material that's gonna inspire root growth. And it's also fresh Miracle-Gro potting soil. I think Miracle-Gro makes great products. Unless you're trying to do some crazy organic stuff that you're trying to do on your own, or you're trying to get your farm certified by NASA, Miracle-Gro is gonna be fine for you. Use Miracle-Gro. Got that. And lastly, I've got some rooting hormone. I'm using Foop Clone Gel today. I also use the one that a lot of people use that is a white powder. Not that white powder. So, rooting hormone. And I know right now someone is saying, oh my God, you don't necessarily need rooting hormone. And I'm like, well, there it is. Necessarily is an important part of that sentence. You don't necessarily need it. But in my experience, if you're saying that, you're also one of these C's get degrees people. And there's nothing wrong with that. You and me have the same degree. But when you put a little extra effort, when you put a little extra preparation, usually you'll be rewarded, whether it's with internal knowledge or some sort of stupid ribbon in your graduation. So let's get into it. I'm gonna move things to the side. I'm gonna bring the plant over, bring the first one over. What I'm gonna try to look for is growth that is, give me 3 or 4 inches so that I can have some leaves that are gonna receive that UV light, that are gonna be able to photosynthesize and keep that process rolling. But I also want those 3 to 4 inches because that bottom inch, I am gonna remove any of those leaves. I also want growth that is still very flexible, very soft. I never want to do it with the woody parts. It can work, but in my experience, once there's lignin, which lignin is what creates that wood in the plant's cellular structure, it really just gets a lot tougher. It gets a lot harder for the cells to reassign themselves. So we're looking for, I guess, what we would call the stem cell equivalent in the plant world. So I'm gonna go for these soft growths up here. See how it's easy, I don't have to be that selective. And another thing, you wanna get a good amount. Rosemary trees do not wanna succeed in this cutting situation. They'd much rather you buy one of their cousins at Publix or at Kroger or wherever you shop. So you want to give yourself a good chance. Usually I'll do like 20 at a time, and I could get anywhere from 12 to 14. That'll work out, but that's not always the case. See, here I got one that has 3 with 1 connection. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that bottom part off. I have 3 good ones there. I never like to go so aggressive on a plant, so that to me is enough from this plant. I could have done more, but it's all right. We grow other things. Like this growth is coming down here, a little woody, but not quite. And I'll show them to you now. But that's the main idea, you know. Let's get recent growth. Let's get things that are still not very woody, and that's going to help us succeed in this process. I think I'm going to call it there. I did take more from the smaller plants, or the less intense plant. Now I'm going to take the cutting, and what I want to do is just hold it by the middle and pull back like that. So I expose this. See how that's going? So I'm going to do that to all of these, you know, get most of those off. Now, a part that you're missing right about now, if you want to use the dry rooting hormone, Amazon sells both the cloning gel that's liquid and the rooting hormone that's the dry powder. You can have a little bit of water, and while you're doing this, maybe you place those tips on a wet paper towel, or maybe you just want to dip them in a little bit of water. But in my case, since I'm using the rooting hormone, I don't need to do that now. I'm gonna go ahead and stop here. I'll finish this later, but I don't want to force you to watch, you know, the entire process when you just want to get the idea. So I'm gonna take the rooting hormone. You can pour some of it out when you use it. I'm just gonna stick them in here for this quick video. Like I told you, Foop Clone Gel is what I'm using today. It is already liquid, so I don't have to worry about that. And simply grab here. I'm going to stick it in the rooting gel. There it comes out. And then I'm just going to put it in. If it's a more delicate plant, you might need to, you know, use your finger, make a little hole. In the case of rosemary, we're good. A quick note on the soil where we're putting the plant: get a deep pot. I know we're thinking, well, it's beginning to root, it's not going to be there long, I don't need a huge pot. Get a deep pot, because remember, that initial root it's going to shoot down, or the second or third that it's going to shoot down, that main root wants to go deep. So what I want, my metric for success is I want it to have developed a couple of roots, a bit of a network, but I want those roots to have distance on them, to go deep down, because that way when I transplant it into a larger pot, I know I can stop worrying about that rosemary plant, because rosemary is a pretty low maintenance crop. Once you finish this part of the process, you just give it water, make sure that soil is well drained. A lot of you are drowning the rosemary in water. I don't know what's happening. Oh my God, the rosemary. The rosemary wants water, but it also wants very well draining soil. Not quite a bonsai mix, but you could use that as a mental example if you're trying to think about what I'm referring to right now. So that is how I take rosemary cuttings. Once I'm done taking all these cuttings and putting them here, taking all the rest of the cuttings, putting them here, I will go ahead and place them under UV light. I have the inside of our facility where I have UV light and racks that we use for microgreens. I like to use that for the beginning of the rosemary, since the plant's going to be more vulnerable, more susceptible to disease, more susceptible to fluctuating weather conditions. So for the beginning, I will take it inside, make sure it's getting water every other day. I don't want to have root rot when I only have 1 or 2 potential roots. And that's how we're taking these rosemary cuttings. An important note, just a bonus note, if you're still watching the video, and I appreciate you, remember the benefits of a cutting versus planting from seed. In the case of a rosemary, which, you know, that won't always apply because marigolds grow pretty fast. There are other plants that grow faster from seed. A rosemary takes forever to grow from seed. I might only be able to grow a couple more rosemaries from seed before I die. So you would rather take a cutting. But genetically speaking, remember, the cutting you take is a clone. That's why these people call it clone gel. You are literally taking this plant with its DNA, with all of its characteristics, with the exact characteristics of this plant. I'm not talking about the characteristics of rosemary. I'm not saying, oh, well, this makes rosemary, a seed might make a sunflower. No, no, no. It's all going to be rosemary. But I'm talking about this specific rosemary. The cuttings from that plant are going to be identical to this rosemary. In the world of rosemary, that's all right. But you got to remember the importance of that when you're dealing with fruiting plants. So maybe a mango tree, maybe an avocado tree, anything that fruits. If you like the fruit, and I'm going to use mango as the example because mango will differ. Some mango will have more of those fibrous like strings inside the fruit. Some of them will have a huge seed and less desirable meat in the fruit. Some of them will have a smaller seed and a huge fruit. And that tree that you duplicate, that tree that you take a cutting from and you clone, you're going to receive that exact same genetic material, that exact same fruit every single time because you've cloned the tree. Whereas if you take a fruit from that tree you planted in the ground, it was sexual reproduction by the tree. You don't know if it's going to be similar. It's going to have some of the traits, but you don't know what the parent or the mother plant was that gave it some other traits that might be different, or what that flower gave it that might be different. So I hope you enjoyed learning today. I hope you saw that it's not that hard to take some cuttings. These are going to take a while to grow, but it's a rewarding process. Please follow us and let me know if you have any tips on how I can make this a smoother process for myself. But remember, nice and easy. You got your mother plant, you got your soil, rooting hormone because C's get degrees, but A's just feel better. Clean shears and glove up.